I didn't sleep well because I was kept awake all night by a roaring deer beside me. For clarity, this is a euphemism for a snoring husband. The upside of such a short night is that I got to experience firsthand that the nights in Sweden are indeed particularly short. By 2:30 in the morning, it was already light out. Around the same time, I was able to spot a deer near the hut in what was essentially broad daylight. Though I desperately wanted to fall asleep, I somehow preferred to stay awake. How wonderful it is to sleep under the open stars and become a part of the nocturnal animal life in Sweden that you would otherwise never see. If I were wearing a yellow dress, a blue blouse and a red hair ribbon instead of my sexy thermal underwear, I could almost believe I was Snow White. By 7:30, one of my 7 dwarfs is also awake. Coincidentally, it's my favorite dwarf. As always, he immediately prepares to boil water for our coffee. I forgive him for his snoring in an instant. We cross the river where we camped via a picturesque bridge. We skip a viewpoint just past our campsite, convinced it couldn't be more beautiful than the spot where we enjoyed the sunset the evening before. After a little less than 2 hours of cycling, we take our first break at a spot where young trees are regrowing after relatively recent logging. It seems that in Sweden they don't always replant trees manually after logging, as is often the case in Belgium. The result in our Belgian Ardennes are forests with trees standing in straight lines behind and next to each other. And although I am fond of our Ardennes, this is something that sometimes bothers me. It feels somewhat artificial and unnatural. But here in Sweden they use a different technique. In technical jargon, this is called natural regeneration, where nature is left to its own devices to recover. And as far as I can see here, it's working quite well. The low trees cast only small shadows, which is ideal since the temperatures barely climb above 15 degrees Celsius. But where the trees don't cast shadows, the clouds do, so our goosebump covered bodies are quickly forced back onto our bikes. Suddenly it seems as if someone has thrown a stone with brute force against the GoPro on my handlebars, but I quickly realize it must have been something else. I search the roadside for the stone that was deflected, but I find a small bird lying on its back. I pick it up carefully, but fear that all help is too late. My heart breaks. I try to listen for its heartbeat, but hear nothing. Gently, I press my fingers on its chest, hoping the bird will come back to life. But nothing happens. With a heavy heart, I place the bird in a nice spot under a tree, still quietly hoping that it will miraculously come back to life when we leave. the city of Ljungbyholm, we cycle through the village for a while, and there's a reason for that. We saw on our route that we'll soon reach the east coast of Sweden in Kalmar, about 20 kilometers away. After that, we'll turn back to complete our loop, and on that U-turn, we'll pass through the same village again. Distance-wise, it would be ideal to spend the night here later, so we take a moment to inspect the bivouac options along a stream near the village. We have to cross a meadow with a few cows and then find a perfect spot for later. We take the opportunity to have our lunch here as well. Yesterday's freshly baked bread is sliced and immediately awarded 5 Michelin stars.
Ja, denk ik wel. Hier kan men een kilometer krijgen.
Via a straight, paved bike path that used to be a railway track, we smoothly reach the easternmost point of our route, Kalmar. At first glance, the city doesn't appeal to us much until we reach the old town. A beautiful, imposing castle by the sea surprises us with its beauty. We are also surprised by the heavens opening up all of a sudden. Completely soaked, we run to the covered terrace of a cafe, where 2 patio heaters are promptly turned on for us by the owner. We drink something warm and then indulge in a beer and a glass of wine, or maybe 2, because the rain clouds don't seem to be leaving anytime soon. Camping outside no longer seems an option in this weather, so we book a super last-minute Airbnb about 15 kilometers from Kalmar. When the rain lets up a bit, we start our final kilometers. Once we arrive at the address we found in the Airbnb app, there is no vacation cottage to be found. Upon closer inspection, Google Maps suddenly shows a different address 5 kilometers further. We cycle that way, but are left empty-handed again. It turns out that the app had a wrong address and we have to bike another 20 minutes. The rain clouds laugh at our misfortune, their tears falling on us like a deluge. Completely soaked with 100 kilometers on the odometer, we finally find the right vacation cottage. We sleep in a typical Swedish stuga, a super small vacation house in red and white colors. Despite the rain, it looks particularly idyllic, especially with the sweet pony peeking its head through the fence to see who its new neighbors are.